Recording, right, Steph?
Yes, go ahead. You may begin.
Okay, welcome to the December 2020 Environmental Advisory Council here in Doylestown Township. We usually begin the meeting with our convener, who is a cardinal. So bang, bang, let us begin. So welcome to everyone. It's really nice to see a large crowd tonight. This is a large crowd for us. And let's begin then, as we always do, with the approval of November minutes. I hope everybody had a chance to read them. I'm good with them. Thank you, Kurt, again for doing them. Any comments about November minutes?
I thought they looked great. Kurt, thank you so much for writing them up.
They look good to me too.
I make a
Thanks,
motion
I do.
to approve the minutes.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Everyone seconds.
Okay, I good.
Aye.
Great. All right. So minutes are approved from November. Budget review. Everybody should have had a chance to take a quick look. Any comments about the budget, about expenditures? We paid for some trees. We had some money come in because of our native plant brochure. I hope everybody had a chance to look at it. Any comment about the budget? Okay, looks like Dave Tomko is here tonight. Excellent. Hey, Dave. I guess he'll be signing in. Dave Tomko, it looks like he's coming to the meeting tonight, and he is, for those of you who don't know, the Director of Operations for Doylestown Township. Okay, new business. The first thing we have to get over tonight is nomination for the chair of EAC for 2021. So let's open it up for nominations.
I would like to nominate you, Janine.
I second.
Me too.
Other nominations? Anybody else want to nominate him or herself?
No, but Janine, I want to say you're doing a wonderful job, but I don't think we should impose on you if you don't feel like you want to do it. So I just want to be sure that you are comfortable continuing. I think you're doing a marvelous job.
Me too.
But I just want to be sure that, that you are.
Don't give her any outs, Jim. No.
You know what? I really appreciate that consideration because I have to think about it. I mean, time goes by and health issues come up and all that. We get older, but I have given it thought and I appreciate that consideration and I appreciate your kind words. I think that I can do this probably for another year if you want me. So, all right. So we have a nomination and did we get a second on that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so all in favor of my continuing as chair of our EAC?
Bye.
Okay, it looks like the ayes have it. Okay, here I am.
Thank you
So
so much, Janine.
in anticipation of possibly being asked to continue in this role, I wrote a little statement tonight. And with your permission, I would like to read it. It's going to take 5 minutes. Is that okay with everyone?
Of course.
Does anybody object to my taking 5 minutes tonight?
No, please do. You're the chair.
Okay, well, it's because I think this is the beginning then of, it'll be my 4th year as chair, I think. And, it's a job. It's like a part-time job sometimes. And for this particular meeting, I really wrapped my head around some things, and that's what I want to share with you all. Our EAC is being asked to look at several items tonight that to me are related. You probably noticed this when you looked over the agenda. Consider the following on this agenda tonight. 1, the township-owned lot on Sheridan Road. It says Wiltshire on the agenda, but Kara was kind enough to correct me. It's Sheridan Road. So number 1, the township-owned lot on Sheridan Road that has been neglected for years. 2, the Neshaminy Greenway Trail connecting segment between Route 611 and Route 263 that runs through a vulnerable section of the Neshaminy watershed. 3, a 3-acre open area in a new development planned for 60 Meeting House Road that is in the very beginning stages of decision-making about what to do with the section, with that particular section of the land. And 4, a new Penn State Extension initiative called Watershed Friendly Properties. So, what do these agenda items have in common? The need for environmental stewardship of land within the confines of Doylestown Township. During the past 2 weeks while preparing for tonight's meeting, whether you asked me to be chair or not, I have read and reread some documents. I've taken part in a webinar. I had several enlightening discussions via phone and email with township residents who are concerned about the land in this township. Why? Because our open space and our natural world seem somehow increasingly threatened, under attack, diminishing. 18th century residents of Doylestown Township had no awareness of a need for vigilance about land since it seemed infinitely abundant. Here in the 21st century, we must practice vigilance about our land now that it has been relentlessly developed. Our EAC is advisory. We are resident volunteers. For the most part, we didn't even know each other until we served together on this council. But we have discovered that we share a passion for all things environmental, which covers an incredible number of issues. We are also the township's Shade Tree Commission. Trees are a specific passion that we share. We've acknowledged through words and through deeds that trees are key to healthy ecosystems and that forests, small and large, are a vital component in our answers to climate change questions. Speaking of climate change, during this past week, the Secretary General of the United Nations made a dire statement. He said that humanity is waging war on nature and that we are on a suicidal path as we ignore the existential threats of climate change. This is a powerful global predicament that we are a part of. Our EAC thinks globally, but of course we act locally. Doylestown Township is a tiny piece of this global predicament that we're in. But despite our seeming insignificance, we can decide to do the right thing. Stop waging war on nature. We can be peaceful warriors in the defense and protection of our local trees, streams, soils, habitats, wildlife, plants, and thereby defend and protect our community and our people. Having said all this, I want to say publicly tonight that I believe we need to keep a few things in the front of our minds. 1, open space does not equal turf grass. I propose that we wage war on lawns and encourage our residents to reduce their barren, lifeless lawns and plant native trees and lots of other native plants to nurture life. 2, undeveloped township-owned land is precious. Public ownership is a way to protect it, restore it as a low-maintenance habitat and forest pathways. We can prevent it from becoming habitat for cars, allow it to remain part of a connected ecosystem. I propose that we encourage the township to retain ownership of its small open spaces in order to allow them to become eventually part of forested pathways, green corridors through the township. 3, forested land in our suburban community is increasingly fragmented. Fragmentation is caused by development, tree removal, carelessness, neglect. Every species from box turtles to monarch butterflies, game species like deer, birds like wood thrushes and great crested flycatchers require unimpeded migration corridors. In other words, undeveloped land. Forested pathways, green corridors. I propose that we work to connect whatever undeveloped land we have left in this township. 4, preservation of land and long-term stewardship of land in Doylestown Township is about environmental management for future generations, not just those of us who are alive here and now. We need to look to 2030, 2050, 2070, and beyond. Allow the land to disappear or fall into ruin now, and there is no chance to repair it or to restore it or to protect it. It will be gone. I propose that we accept with humility that we are temporary stewards of our environment and protect it for those who come after us. I know I'm going on. I time myself, it's about 5 minutes. 5, the word watershed needs to be understood as land. We live in the Neshaminy watershed. All of our named and unnamed streams in this township end up in the Neshaminy Creek, which flows into the Delaware River, which flows into the Delaware Bay, which flows into the Atlantic Ocean. What happens to our waterways here doesn't stay here. I propose that we support Penn State Extension's watershed-friendly properties initiative and work to encourage both public and private land in our township to be respected as part of a vital system. 6, what you will hear tonight from Marie Carrata and Jim Walter is their focused concern on one segment of the Neshaminy watershed. It is slated for a bike and hike trail on Bucks County property in Doylestown Township. Unfortunately, the trail seems to have been planned without fully considering township, its impact on the watershed. I propose that we support minimum disturbance of the land for such trail development. And finally, I propose that we continue to educate through signs, workshops, demonstrations, bird walks, habitat walks, volunteer work days, whatever it takes to raise residents' awareness of our township's beautiful, complex, fragile environment. I feel a greater sense of urgency than ever. Our war against nature has to stop. So let's proceed. And with that, Marie
Well said.
and Jim,
Well done,
thank you.
Jean. Very well done.
Thank you. I needed to say that tonight because it just looked like so much on our agenda is coming together about those issues. So I'd like to turn our meeting over now to Marie Carrata and Jim Walter to present about the Neshaminy Greenway Trail connecting segment and their environmental concerns. And it looks like we have some other residents here tonight to hear what they have to say and perhaps ask some questions. In the meantime, I'd like to welcome Dan Wood, our Board of Supervisors liaison to our EAC. Hi, Dan.
Hi, sorry, I
It
was
is-
running late from a previous meeting. I'm sorry I was a little late tonight.
It's okay. It's good to see you tonight. So let us begin. Marie, Jim?
Marie, are you muted?
Marie, we can't hear you.
Oh, really? Why is that? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, I'll just talk loud. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. This is the test. Okay. Okay, the host disabled screen sharing, so
Give me a moment.
yeah, it's okay. Give me a moment, right? I want to show, I'll talk while we're waiting. I put together a slideshow. I'm going to go as quickly as possible because I know Jim has a lot to say. And I want to explain what I've come across in the last month and a half, which I feel is a problematic plan of the counties. And it just surprised me. Where have I been? I haven't been I haven't been paying attention or something. I don't know.
Hold on, I'm on my iPad and I'm having problems
You
picking
have
up
to go to
the,
security, right, Rachel? You have to go to security and allow.
nope, that's not showing up. Yeah, okay. It's under something else. Okay. Go ahead.
I try again.
Mm-hmm.
Aha, there we go. Okay. Share. Hopefully I don't have to.
There you go.
Oh, why is it telling me to update? All right, let me get rid of that. Okay, good. Can you hear me? Just tell me if you can't hear me. So I'm going to go quickly. Neshaminy Greenway, I put a question mark because I'd heard about it. I moved here 2 years ago. I'm a horticulturist. I've had a Bachelor of Science. I've been working in the plant field for 45 years. I know plants very well. I love native plants. I've gone more environmental in the 45 years than when I started, which was ornamental horticulture back in the day. And I moved to this home and had heard about a greenway. Oh, why is it not doing that? Okay, wait a minute. And I got to click on something here. Okay, there we go. And so I see this out the back door, and I've started to beef up the meadow. I've planted lots of little native trees in here. And the creek, Neshaminy Creek, is right down here. It's about 10 feet below the edge of the bank. I have a high bank and it's eroding and all depositing on the other side. So I moved in and a neighbor said, hey, did you know there's going to be someday a Neshaminy Greenway trail? And I said, oh, cool. And this is what I envisioned. You know, the kind of trail where you cut the log and you just move the one piece and people walk through. And I thought, great. But I got a letter of intent to enter from the county about this trail. And I'm like, intent to enter. And they were talking about machinery and eminent domain and things. And it kind of scared me. And as I spoke to one of the county people, he said, no, this is what we're envisioning. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, that's huge. And how many trees do you have to cut down to put that in? And I know what this is like down here, wet in the, so that really scared me. So then I talked to more neighbors, and the farmer, I live over here. This is my edge. The farmer over here gave me this map and he said, oh yeah, not only do they want to put in a trail, they want to put in a paved access road and a 24 space parking lot right here. And the trail is this yellow thing. And they can't be on the other side because there's townhouses over here that are too close, or at least those are. There is a trail here that goes behind these houses and there might be a room. But anyway, they have to put a bridge. And then over here, they have to put another bridge. And then as it goes over into Warwick Township, they're planning a third bridge. And this is in 2 mile length, less than 2 miles. So I panicked because this is very scary to me. So I got about 38 residents from this neighborhood over here and the other side of Pebble Hill Road. It's not an in my backyard thing. And as you can see, it's not even in my backyard. And so I don't care about that. What I care about is that, whoops, that's what I'm worried about. That freaked me out. So we all got together and I began to do a heck of a lot of research. And I want to say here that the county was great. They had a Zoom meeting with us. They gave us their plan and they did remove that parking lot and the access road from the farmer's property, which, and it's county property, but they would go through his property. So that was a big relief. And I'd say 6 of those residents were like, fine, that's it. We don't care, pave the trail, whatever. The rest of them were like, what? Why are you paving a trail in nature? So I'm not alone here. So I did a lot of research and I came across this little thing from the Delaware River Keepers. And it says this park is almost can be considered one large riparian buffer surrounding the main stem of the Neshaminy Creek for 7.8 stream miles. Then I found another quote from the same River Keepers pamphlet that we will document that we think is 2001. There's no date on it. It talks about after the Neshaminy Dam did not go in 1989, these 650 acres were permanently protected. There's a floodplain with vernal ponds, and there's some rare plant species, and it was listed as a priority 2 site. I don't know what that means, but it sounds special, and it is special. It's still very wild, and we have a lot of animals here. So here's the farmer's field. Here's where the parking lot was going to go. And you can understand why the people that live along Pebble Hill Road and in Wilkshire Road neighborhood, we all walk on the road and come visit the sheep. So everybody was panicked. So we don't have to worry about that. That's good. But there would be a paved trail now still going through here. and they wanted to pave, this is the farmer's access road. And you can see, this is much better because the water sits in puddles. And if you were to pave an access road, it would just go right down into the creek. And they wanted to remove this tree. So by this time, I have lost trust in the Planning Commission that they say that they're very environmentally conscious. And already I've lost total trust, and I'm sorry, but I understand that this tree can suck up 1,000 gallons of water a year or more. I've seen up to 4,000 gallons listed, depending on size of tree, and this is a pretty big one. And here's the roots. And I'm preaching to the choir. You are environmental people, so you know. I'm pretty sure you know. So research. I've been doing college course here, and I read the storm management plan of the county from 2010. They had a lower Neshaminy Creek planned by Heritage Conservancy in 2004. And this is a watershed restoration paper by the county and Montgomery County together, and many, many, many other things. So you know what a watershed is. I'm pretty sure you do. And this is the Neshaminy watershed. Here's the town of Doylestown. And right down here is the stretch we're talking, because here's Warwick Township. So here's our Doylestown Township section. And this is a little creek that comes into right where we are. So continuing on, conservation design in sensitive areas. And I'm reading sensitive areas include stream corridors, headwaters, wetlands, steep slopes, erodible soils, karst bedrock. I'm reading more stuff. Let's reduce impervious surfaces in our townships, counties. We have way too many. Here's another one. If you have 10% of your township or watershed paved, you're already impacting the stream. Here's the scale. And fish die at 25%, percent, and it goes on and on and on. So I'm just proving to you that I'm not just talking off my head. I could talk off my head, but I researched to make sure. Now, this was presented by the county people to our group. It was their feasibility study done in 2014, which nobody on this road knew about until about a month ago. So shock and awe. Okay, so here's the map of the trail, proposed trail through the area. Here's the area I had showed you in the Doylestown Township, and then obviously Warwick Township, and it goes into Buckingham Township. Here are the red is the dotted trail proposed, and they're going to try to, well, here is a trail that belongs to the townhouses, but I'm not going to get into too many details. That's the bridge. That's where they're starting because they think they can't go behind there. So that's where they're starting. Now I read some more, and the first thing I read is protecting existing natural areas. This is best management practices. Okay, and that in Act 167, I guess in the 70s or 80s, was about, these drainage basins for developments, and there's all these management practices that are better than we did back in the old days. And that's good if they're done, and most of the time they are. And removal or reduction of impervious surfaces, enforcement of regulations, protecting and restoring riparian buffers. Now this is the Delaware River Keeper, and they've done extensive studies, but nobody's really studied this particular area recently that we can find. This is of the riparian buffer, and I'm going to go quick because Jim's probably going to cover this kind of stuff. Here's your creek, here's your shallow, and here's the shoreline, regularly inundated. I can attest to that. Riparian fringe, often inundated, wet soils. That's what we really have, and that's where this trail will be going, in these very wet soils. And then when we have the flood, the 100-year flood, which we had two of them in 2011. We had Irene and Lee. I wasn't here then, but it goes up really high. And they're also very moist soils. And it's not inundated as often, but it stays moist. So here's the farmer's field. Here's where the dreaded parking lot was going to go. Here's where the road is. And I'm going to show you what it looks like on the ground. There are not a whole lot of trees between the creek and the meadow where the sheep are, but you can see the pockets, and it's not a flat lawn where there's runoff. It soaks in, and it's pretty sopping wet most of the time. You can see water here. And I want to point out deer blinds. I know our township has a deer problem. In the last booklet that you sent out, we have hunting here on the farm. A few private properties allow it, and I don't, because I'm too close to the creek and I'm afraid a kayaker will get shot or something. But he has a cornfield, and he needs hunting because the deer eat the crops, and we all need deers to be hunted. There they are. Oh, wet. This is coming out of that sheep thing. There's a little trail and it's all wet, but this is probably where they would put the trail because it's already cleared, okay, to start. So you wouldn't have to take out any trees. But paving, trucks, compaction, digging, maybe a boardwalk. One of the men suggested, I think from Gilmore and Associates, had said in the wetlands, a boardwalk, and that made me feel a lot better because that is good. And this place, they say, floods up to here. It's not a raging, rushing creek like ours, but it's a swamp. And now we're going to look at the next property from the creek looking up. There's the creek, it's big. This is not a little creek. And I want to tell you about a buffer. The Delaware River Keepers, the minimum buffer is 100 feet for all creeks. And he said about this size, we suggest 300 feet. So we're in, this is the 300 feet buffer here, sopping wet. And the gal who lives here says the water in flood comes into the sheep meadow. That's county property. And it's wet. So the trail's coming along, and this is where the bridge would be, right about here. And here's what the bridge is going to look like. Now, the thing that really scared me is they said, oh, the bridge has to be 14 feet wide to get an ambulance across it. And I'm thinking, why? What trail do you know, and where do ambulances come? They come to the parking lot, and maybe they take an ATV or a golf cart or something to go get the sick person. I don't know, but there's a lot of trails around that don't need ambulance access. So that scares me. And you would need a crane to get this kind of a bridge over the creek, and it's very wet. And so how would you get a crane back? I mean, it's just, to me, I'm losing more trust. I am losing more trust. It can be done. I'm sure it can be done. The engineers say it can be done. So that's the Dark Hollow Road bridge. And obviously they put it in from a road, so it wasn't like from a woods. Here's a picture of a tree with all its roots and dirt that the farmer sent me. And he said, you know, in EAC, it appeared. He said it didn't come from over here, and it didn't come from anywhere in his property that he could see, but it obviously floated down, and it's got to be really heavy, and it lodged here. But what if it lodged against one of the bridges? Would it take it out? Would it be very hard to remove? Yes. Would it back up the water? Yes. And I have to say, this is in front of where I look out, and my high bank that's 10 or 12 feet above the creek is right here. So now it's come up 10 or 12 feet, and then it's come 30 feet into where these trees are. And it was deep enough that some tree logs moved. So that's pretty bad. Now on the other side, it's all the way in there. You just can't see it because that's lower. I saw a tree, no big roots attached, but I saw a full tree go down this creek quickly. The velocity is very quick. So impacts of stormwater, and I just want to point out loss of shade, increased temperature that affects the fish, degrading of the wetlands. So we know we have stormwater in our township and everywhere in our county. And wells, we all drink out of wells. The borough has a well, everybody has a well. So we have to want our, I'm gonna quick go through this, you know, infiltration, and we all know that we don't want it flowing off and down to the creek. And by the way, we're at the end of the line. We're not the end of the Neshaminy Creek near the Delaware, but we're at the end of the line of the North Branch, the West Branch, and what's rolling off the hill right here. So there's a lot of water coming. And here's a meadow, and this is why a meadow can trap the water better than a lawn, because you've got tussocks and sedges and all that sort of stuff. And principles of conservation design, prevention should take precedence over mitigation. Now, the county planners have said, oh, trust the engineers, they know what to do. But to me, you're gonna, and they say, we're gonna mitigate, we know how to mitigate. But you can't mitigate in a floodplain. You can't put in a basin, it'll get flooded. You know, and couldn't we just prevent? That's my feeling. And lots of, everything I read, oh, and the other thing, you know, pipes and culverts should be, you know, frowned upon, but that's what we have on our streets. This is the little creek that goes through the farm, and there is a pond behind us, and it does overflow the pond, and, you know, it runs slowly, but it has some control. But this is the rest of the picture of our road, which is the typical culverts. That one goes in here. This one comes from across the road, and this guy has to even have another drainage thing because it's a flood around here. This man is on the other side of the road. He has a meadow. He just planted some maple trees. This was in the other rain the other day, and it sat there for several days, and that rain was 1.5 inches. That's a normal rain. Sat there. And this field over here is sopping wet almost all the time, unless you had a 2-week drought. Comes across the road into here. And this lady has been trying to let the little junipers grow to help hold the soil. And unfortunately, it's very shady here, so it's hard to get anything to grow, but it lets out here. And, you know, this always was a little runoff creek, but she says it's getting higher and higher, and, you know, with these storms that we've been having. So, okay, we've crossed the creek now, and we're, I think we may be in Warwick Township, I'm not sure, but we're going around this field because it's higher. This looks a little low here. And we're gonna go with this trail. That's what they're telling me. And to me, that's cutting down a lot of trees. And you've got a couple feet on each side. The trails have their, you know, what they have to do. So you get over here, and there's a lovely pond and a parking lot off of Valley Road. And the purpose for all this paved trail is for a commuting throughway for bikes, and a multi-purpose for wheelchairs and kids. And, you know, we're talking 2 miles, I don't know, for a wheelchair. So they talked about, oh, we need recreation, so we'll put a boardwalk around this pond. And I say, bravo. That would be very nice. If I were in a wheelchair, I'd love to come to this parking lot and go around this pond. But I don't think I'm going to go 2 miles up a paved trail, certainly not in a flood. So I went to the parking lot over there, and here's what the county takes care of, I guess, unless it's Warwick Township. I don't know. Here's the trash can smashed, and here's the trash. And it's a big enough parking lot, and fishermen use it, and they've already made their own trails. And I spoke to a couple fishermen, and they said, why are you paving a trail? I read in a lot of the Heritage Conservancy booklet, passive recreation, which says to me, walking, fishing, bird watching. It doesn't say whizzing by on bicycles. And believe me, I love bicycles. I can ride on the canal. I go up to Peace Valley. There's lots of places to bicycle for recreation. For commuting, I think you need to stay on the road. Anyway, you could put a little gravel on those fisherman trails. And then the Valley Road, they would cross the creek and they would go through this wooded area, and then they really don't know where they're going after that. I think some of this land is Heritage Conservancy land, and so they're gonna have to cut down a lot of trees to do this plan. All right, so I went to New Britain and walked with a friend to see what these trails look like. And mostly I was visiting my friend, but I saw what the trails look like. And this is the Pine Run Dam, and that's already been bulldozed and manipulated. The ground has, you know, been torn up. And up at Peace Valley, you can see what they do. They put it in a culvert and it comes through, and there's rocks. And so, you know, high tech, plastic. And then here's the new paved trails, and what does that grass look like? The water has washed right off of it. Here's a place where the trail meets the old parking lot, which they've banked up to keep it from washing, but the new one washing. This gravel was not from the old gravel parking lot. It was way too uniform. It came from the trail, the new trail, and it made like a river. So I've just put this in, the difference between the runoff of a parking lot and a meadow. And for instance, the runoff coefficient in a parking lot is 0.95, and in a meadow, it's 0.06. So I won't belabor that. Meadow. So my question is, does one size fit all places? And I beg to differ with, the idea that these are the trails of the day. There's some places where they shouldn't be. So I've read Rails to Trails and Gung Ho Bike and everything. And I was a member in the 80s. I think a rail bed, a canal bed, a development, they should have trails. A parkway, 202 Parkway, great. We were already paving the darn place. We're tearing it up. But they say in their pamphlet, don't put it on sensitive areas at all. But if you were Bombay Hook and you have to have a boardwalk or a trail, then it tells you what's the best thing to use. Now, I went on Bristol Road because I was tipped off that one of these paved trails has now gone along the Neshaminy Creek. That's brand new. And they've cut all the trees. And one friend who's a very big proponent for this exact thing said, oh, well, most of them were ash trees and they were already dead. But I beg to differ. And those ash trees, that's a fact. There are a lot of dead ones. And, we have to really be worried because now this water is going to be not trapped by the ash trees. Okay, so that picture was taken right here on Bristol Road along the creek. And now the proposed, this is in the 2014 feasibility study, the proposed trail was up here. It's now gone in here. I guess New Britain knows that. I don't know. Here's the Wilma Quinlan wetlands.
Mhm.
You're going to put the little paved, maybe they've already done it. I don't know. But I think Wilma would be rolling in her grave. I'm very upset about that. Here's the Wilma Quinlan head trailhead. And of course there's a sign and it says no bicycles for a reason. Oh, and going back, I just want to say, the reason they want to put this trail over here is for commuting. Well, let's see, we've got, 202, and I don't know what this road is, but all this red are paved trails, all this red. And the township's done 27 miles of paved trails, and I think it's great if they were already paved to begin with. But I think a stream is sensitive, and I don't think we should be paving along a stream. So I'm going to cover a few different kinds of trails, and I wouldn't even call this a trail, I'd call it a road. And then we had the boardwalk idea. You could put a bench even on it so it wouldn't float away in the flood. I still think of this as a nice trail and wouldn't have to cut any trees down. You've seen these kind of trails. And some people want this kind of trail. They don't want to go walk at Peace Valley. They don't want to walk at the New Britain Pine Run Dam. They want to go walk in, what is it, the park up above, Stover Park and, places like that, where you can go on a dirt trail. So I'm getting down to the end, which is good because I probably overdid it. But at the end, they had a recommendation in the upper and middle Neshaminy Creek Conservation Plan, which was done by the River Keepers in 2001. And it did not include Doylestown Township, but it did include Warwick. And they said Dark Hollow stream assessment. They recommend a complete study of the tributaries and the creek and focusing on stormwater, developments uphill, water quality. And we're talking 19 years ago, okay? And that, as far as I know, hasn't been done. I've looked for it. So what I'm recommending, and this is Dark Hollow, this is the moon rising over Dark Hollow. I don't want this to be the end of the discussion. So what I am recommending, and I'm sure Jim has more to recommend, is I did recommend to the county people an independent environmental study, and they assured me the engineers did that. And I'm sorry, they don't do that, they build. and they may be very environmental. But I think an environmental person would say a stream is a very protected place and we have to be very careful. And I would like to see more public comment, because the 2014 study, there were 2 library meetings, altogether having 67 people. The bike committee had a meeting, and that there was a meeting with the township supervisors. So there were news articles. It was posted on the Bucks County Planning Commission website, and they had 11 extended days for public comment. This is 6 years ago. No one on my road, except the one guy who's a big bike proponent, knew about this 6 years ago. So I feel that, and of all people, they should have been told. So, and I don't think,
Marie,
yes,
did you ask the county for a copy of that previous environmental study? Were they able to produce it? Did you ask for it?
the Delaware Riverkeeper one?
Well, who, you said that the county said they had done an independent environmental study of the area. And you said that they don't do that, they build. I'm just curious if you had asked them to produce the report.
No, I asked for an independent environmental
Oh, and
study.
they said they would do one.
No, they
They
said,
won't do one.
no, they said to me that the engineering firm is an environmental engineering firm, and it would be good enough.
I
And
see.
so I was not satisfied with that.
Mhm.
And I have not been able to find a study of this actual Dark Hollow Park area, except that 2001 thing that didn't even include Doylestown Township, and they asked for a study. They did a study and asked for a study. So I'm going to let Jim take over, because I don't want to go too late. I'll try to get out of my stop share. Okay.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and share
Thanks,
my
Matt.
screen. Oops.
I'd like to welcome additional attendees. It's nice to see that we have such a crowd here tonight. Take it, Jim.
All right, very good. So for those of you who don't, why won't this do? Oh, I see. I got to do that. There we go. My name is Jim Walter. I am by training a chemical engineer, PhD from Berkeley, but I'm also a master watershed steward. And the master watershed stewards are trained by Penn State, and we're very concerned about water issues in the state and in the county in particular. And we've been working with the Conservation District for many years on projects within the county. About 2 years ago, we engaged in a project with the Conservation District to do a study on stream bank erosion on streams in Bucks County. There had been some studies done in Montgomery County and some done in down in Chester County, but this is the first time that a study like this has ever been done in Bucks County. And the reason why this was so important to the Conservation District and us was because sediment is the major cause of stream impairment in Bucks County. 60% of our streams are impaired by sediment. And they wanted to get an idea of, well, where's all this sediment coming from? We know that we get sediment that comes off the farms, and the Conservation District does an awful lot of work to reduce the amount of sediment coming off the farms. But the other source of sediment that gets into our streams is off our stream banks as they erode away. And so they wanted to get an idea of where are the problems in the county, what's going on. And so we started this project. Right now, there are 27 sites across the county. They range from the Quessing down in the southern county to the Chamonix in the middle, Cooks County or Cooks Creek in the far north, and a number of the smaller creeks within the county. We've got 13 volunteers that are involved in this project. This has been going on for 2 years now, a little bit over 2 years, and we have over 400 measurements. And the technique that we use for measuring stream bank erosion is called bank pins. Basically, you take a piece of rebar and you pound it into a vertical stream bank, and you measure the amount of a bank pin that's been exposed. And as time goes on and that stream bank wears away, more and more of that pin is exposed. And we do multiple pins at every site, so we get statistical analysis and really can get a pretty good idea of what's going on with a stream. And what we see is great differences across the county. And I want to explain to you some of the things that are going on in the Chamonix Creek, and particularly with the Stark Hollow section. So one of the things we learned from this study is it's really difficult to predict the results of erosion monitoring just on stream bank appearance. In some cases, stream bank erosion may have occurred months or years ago, and that bank has been stabilized, but it still looks eroded. It still is incised. Erosion is driven by rainfall events, and upstream changes really impact what happens downstream. It's not necessarily what happens at that site itself, although that can impact erosion, but a lot of times it's what happens upstream that really changes what goes on downstream. Large rainfall events can produce dramatic changes, and erosion is very site specific. We can't make one measurement for all of the Chamonix Creek. It very depends on where you are in the creek as to what's going on. So when we talk about erosion, you have to talk about rainfall events. And we've gone through some really dramatic changes in rainfall over the past 2 years. You'll remember back 2018, everything was very, very wet. We had 66 inches of rainfall in the county in 2018. That's about 20 inches more than average. In 2019 was much more closer to normal. But then what happened is in August, of course, we had the hurricane come through, which dumped 5¼ inches of rain in about 4 hours on the county. That 5½ inches is more rain than we typically get in a month in this county, and it happened in a 4-hour period. So it really changes the dynamics of what's going on. This is another way of looking at rainfall events on the Chamonix Creek. The USGS has a flow monitoring site down at Rushland, which is at the bottom of Dark Hollow. And it measures the flow through the stream or through the creek constantly. The blue bars here are the specific flow through that creek, and you can see all of the rain events that occurred. The yellow dots down here are normal flow of the creek over the year. It's an average of, it's a statistical mean of 24 years worth of data. And what you can see is this, the flow through the creek actually changes month to month. You know, it's low in the fall going into October, and it's really high in the spring and March and April. And this fluctuates. What you can see from this here is back in 2018, we were getting very high amounts of rainfall almost constantly. And for large periods of time, the stream never got back to base flow. It was always flooded. And this impacts what's going on in the stream, and it impacts the amount of erosion you're going to see. Now, what happened here in October, August and October, the rainfall slowed down. We didn't get nearly as many events. And then from late 2019 going through 2020, we got a more normal occurrence of rainfall events. They're more spread out, and the stream has more chance to recover between those. And that impacts the type of erosion that you're going to see. If you look at this in terms of cumulative rainfall events, each one of those spikes that you see occurring out there, you see that what's occurred is almost a two-phase type of flow through the system. We had a very steep amount or a large amount of events going on through 18 and 19, and then it slowed down in 20 until you hit the hurricane. So what does this all mean in terms of practical terms? Okay, so give you some idea of where these stream bank pins are and relative to everything else. So the light green area here is the northern Neshaminy watershed. And we have bank pin sites at Kelly Park, at Wilma-Quinlan, at Valley Road, and then in Dark Hollow, which is down on the other side of York Road, okay? And what I'm going to do is go through and show you what's going on at each one of these sites and kind of compare and contrast. Okay, so here is Kelly Park up in Chalfont, and that's in the Chamonix Creek. It's got a rock bottom to it. You can see the stream banks here are very nicely shaped. You've got a lot of trees, vegetation. There's a bridge that goes over the creek at this site. And the riparian buffer here looks pretty darn good. And here's what we saw in terms of stream bank erosion over 2.5 years. You see some up and down because what happens with streams is you've got this dynamic equilibrium going on. It erodes, it deposits sediment. It erodes, it deposits sediment, okay? And that's the normal behavior of a stream. So over 2.5 years, or almost 2.5 years of study, we lost 3.25 centimeters of stream bank at this particular site. That's about 1 1/3 inches. So you're less than a 1/2 inch of stream bank being removed per year. This is a pretty stable system. This could go on for years unless there's a big change and something going on upstream. This could coexist like this for a long time without any problem. Okay. Now you go down to Wilma Quinlan Nature Center, and the riparian buffer here doesn't look nearly as nice. You've got some mowing that goes right down to the stream bank itself. You've got a very sparse amount of trees along the stream bank, but the stream bank shape itself is not too bad. You've got a gradual slope to it. And you can actually see our bank pin installation over here in the corner. Okay. What was interesting at this site is during Hurricane Isaias, a tree came down across the stream, and immediately other logs started building up on it. And you can see the stream here. They cut the tree in half so that there would be a channel, and so you wouldn't have a bridge across the entire stream here. But you also can see the amount of sediment that's already built up on the side. So this stream is carrying an awful lot of sediment, even at this point, high up in the creek. Here's the erosion that we're seeing at this site. We got about 20 centimeters of stream bank erosion over 2 years. That's about 7, almost 8 inches of stream bank has been removed from this site in just 2 years. This is getting kind of fuzzy. I mean, this is where you're going to get to the point where you're going to start seeing erosion back to those trees. The roots are going to get exposed, and those trees are going to be possibly falling down. It is highly possible that some of the trees that we saw in the creek here are actually from streams up, from trees upstream that have had their roots eroded and are falling down into the bank at this point. Okay, so then let's go down to Dark Hollow, and Dark Hollow is showing signs of being under a lot of stress. There's lots of evidence of flooding, as Marie has talked about. It's not uncommon to see trash really high up on the bank or on the trees. You're seeing high levels of apparent stream bank erosion. You're seeing lots of tree loss. And there are comments from the fishermen down there that the fish in this area have lost, there's been a loss in abundance of them over the years. Okay. So this is what the tree roots look like on the bank down on the Chamonix Creek at Dark Hollow. You can see that there has been extensive erosion here. Lots of trees, I mean, trees don't grow like this normally. They want solid foundation. These trees are hanging on for dear life. Now, the trees are critical here because the trees help stabilize the stream bank. If you lose the trees, then the stream bank's going to erode more. And you can see these have many feet of roots that have been exposed at this point. And you can see this big tree back here that's away from it. It's starting to see its roots eroded. Okay, this is the site that we picked. Now the stream bank here is about 5.5 feet tall. It's definitely incised. We picked this area down here because it's pretty free of tree roots and we could get a good measurement there. But right above it, you've got tree roots exposed, and you got a large tree over here, and it's already starting to tilt into the creek. Well, here's the data on the erosion that's going on at the creek. 35 centimeters of stream bank loss over 2 years, or almost 14 inches of stream bank lost in just 2 years at the site. So let's go down the creek a little bit further. Downstream from Valley Road site is where York Road crosses the Chamonix Creek. And there's a stone bridge there. It's of historic significance. This is actually before Assayas. A large tree dam established itself on the creek here, all caught up by the dam. Now, I can't say that all these trees came down because of stream bank erosion. I mean, they could have been snapped off from the wind, or they could have been, killed by emerald ash borer. But there's a lot of evidence here that you've got a lot of logs coming down the stream, and they're all piling up at this bridge. It endangers the bridge, it makes it unstable. These had to be removed because hydraulic pressure on the bridge would have eventually caused it to fail. So there are consequences to having stream bank erosion that are quite significant. So let's go down the stream a little bit further into the Dark Hollow section, or what we call the Dark Hollow section of it. And here's what the stream banks look like. There used to be a tree here. It has snapped off from its roots. And you can see the other trees here barely hanging on. Their roots are all fully exposed. Another tree down here, another tree down here. Lots of evidence of failure of the stream bank at this point. There's trees in the water, and you can see that the roots of that tree have been snapped off. It just no longer could hold on to the bank, and it fell into the creek. You've got another one here. Lots of evidence of problems due to stream bank erosion. This is the site that we picked to do this. This particular study. It's a fairly steep bank. It's about 6 feet tall altogether. There's a tree back here, and it's got its roots exposed, but it's not a bad site. At this particular site, we saw 70 centimeters of stream bank erosion in 2.5 years. That's over 2 feet of stream bank being lost from this site in just 2 years. Now, one of the things that's interesting about this site is that erosion was probably exacerbated by a tree that fell into the stream above this site that changed the flow of the stream. It made the channel move closer to the bank where the bank pins were, and that probably accelerated the erosion of this bank. But clearly, we've got a situation down here that's unstable. It's under a lot of stress. So then the question is, what's going on? Why is this part of the stream under so much stress? And you got to look at what's going on with the flow of the stream. This is what happened to this stream under Assayas. This is the USGS station down at Rushland. It's measuring the water flow through the Chamonix Creek during the hurricane event. Now these triangles down here is normal base flow. This is what you'd expect the creek or the stream to be running at under normal conditions. This is what happened with the hurricane. You had a huge increase in flow, 233 times the base flow at that point. And what's interesting is that the hurricane came through in about 4 hours. But this high level of flow up here lasted about 15, 16 hours. You're getting much more duration of high flow through this stream than you would expect just from the rainstorm itself. The other thing that's interesting is that you have this, let's go back, this really large shoulder. It takes a long time for this stream to recover back to base flow. And actually, here you are 4 days later, and you're still not down to base flow. You're still about 10 times base flow. And you had another little rain event, and it was pretty small, but it caused a great change in the flow of the creek because it's already saturated. It's already well above its stable situation. This is not the way creeks or streams normally act, okay? We can go to another stream in Bucks County and see what a normal stream would look like. This is the Perkiomen Creek up in Dublin. same type of situation where you've got a USGS site up there that's measuring the stream flow of this particular creek. And here's what happened with Isaias. There was a dramatic increase in flow here. It was only 50 times normal base flow. And that stream recovered back to base flow within half a day. And it then proceeded at around base flow for a number of days. And then you had this other little event that we saw back on the 7th. Okay, this stream is acting more normally. Okay, it flushes itself. And that's the way streams are supposed to act. They're not supposed to act like this, where you get these prolonged durations of high flow through the stream that's causing erosion. So what's causing this? Why is this part of the stream acting this way? And why is the erosion so bad down here at Dark Hollow as opposed to upstream? Well, we got to look at an aerial map of what's going on. And this is a Google Earth map. And to orient you to where we are, go back. Here's 202. Here's the 611 bypass. Here's Doylestown up here. There's Central Park. Here's Valley Road down here. And here's Dark Hollow. Okay. You look at the riparian buffer that you've got along this stream here, and it is incredibly narrow along this section. There's no space here for the rainfall to actually get taken up and penetrate into the soil. And it's particularly bad over here in the 611 corridor. What we've got over here, this is the Kohl's parking lot, and it's right up a butt to the stream. All that impervious surface there is just going to create water, and that water is going to flow into the stream. Except there is a small detention pond behind this parking lot. Well, detention ponds are usually engineered to handle a half to an inch of rainfall. When you get a 5.5-inch rainfall event, it's flooded over that entire detention pond, and it's just going right into the creek. And this whole area over here is full of impervious surfaces. I think that that's why this part of the creek is under so much stress at this point, is you've got this upstream facility up here that's really just pushing more water into that stream than it can possibly handle. The stream is trying to adapt this high water flow. The only way that it can adapt is to increase its width. It can't go down any further because it's already at shale rock. So the only thing you can do is expand, and it's doing that by stream bank erosion. What's that going to do? That's going to narrow these riparian buffers even more and take down more trees and create more erosion and have less of an area for stream or for water to infiltrate into the area. We've created a mess for ourselves down here. So what's going on? So we got these large amount of impervious surfaces up here on Route 11. You've also got York Road section down here. And you have this large amount of housing that's up in this area that's channeling its all the runoff from that into a side stream that comes down, here we go, comes down through this area and goes right into the Chamonix Creek. So again, it's putting more and more load on this part of the creek. So I see this as a very unstable situation. It's just going to get worse. And I don't think putting in more impervious surfaces and taking down more trees is going to help this at all. It's just going to make it worse. Now, there are some things that we can do to try to help this situation. We can increase rain infiltration. We can put in rain gardens. We can put in rain barrels. We can plant trees. We can make sure our detention ponds are working correctly. One of the problems that we have with detention ponds is they usually get built when a housing development or a complex gets put in, and then nobody ever looks at them again. And these detention ponds are designed to trap sediment. Well, what happens when you trap sediment? These ponds eventually start filling up with sediment. And so you may have dug this detention pond to be 10, 15 feet deep, but over the years, it's filling in with sediment. And you can't tell because all these detention ponds have grass in the bottom of it. The grass is 3-4 inches high, and the sediment you're depositing each year may be 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch. Doesn't change much in a year, but you do this for 20 years and you're starting to get a lot of silt build up in these things. The other thing that we can do, and as Janine discussed before, I think watershed friendly properties is a great way of getting people in the community to understand what's going on. And most importantly is to reduce and replace the impervious surfaces in our county. We've got a problem with that, and it's really impacting our streams. Okay. So I hope that I was able to give you some information about what's really going on down here. This is not the type of study that engineers do. They don't go out and measure stream bank erosion for 2 years when they do these studies. They go out and make a visual assessment and go on from there.
I have a question, Jim. When we have those big rain events, so Peace Valley Dam lets out water, doesn't it?
Sure. Oh, yeah. And it
So-
lets it out continuously. Yeah.
And so is that why maybe it doesn't go down as quickly because you got those dams upstream?
I think that's part of it, but you also have detention ponds that we've created all along the stream in all those communities and all those parking areas, and they're releasing water too.
Yeah, everything's releasing.
Everything's releasing water. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, this is a very compelling pair of presentations, I must say.
Yeah.
The two of them are very complementary and very impressive together. Have you guys spoken to any of the other watershed? Have you spoken to Delaware River Keepers, or have you spoken to? There's an Neshaminy River Keeper group as well, I think. Have you spoken to those other groups about this?
Yes. The Neshaminy Creek Watershed Association, they're changing leadership right now. You know, everything's crazy with COVID, but the leader was Joyce Ely, and she helped a lot with the Tyler Park paved
planting, yeah.
trails and development and everything. And honestly, she said, you can quote me, but she was very disgusted with how things were going. It didn't seem very environmental. It's like, let's pave a bunch of stuff and put in some trash cans and get all your volunteers out, Joyce. Let's plant some little sticks and twigs, you know, little bare root things, which is what I'm planting on my property. And believe me, it takes years for them to get to like a mature tree, and they get washed away and eaten by deer, you know. And she just felt it was overwhelming. She's kind of thrown up her hands.
And this is a really big problem, and it's not going to be solved overnight.
Yeah.
You know, we're looking at years,
Yeah.
and that's why we need to think in terms of 2030, 2050, 2070. We really do have to stop our war on nature. What you showed us tonight is what's happening. You gave us data. You gave us science, Jim. Marie, you gave us photographs. You gave us on the ground. You gave us researched. You gave us some documents that you have studied. This is a huge problem, and it is not going away anytime soon. What is it that you would like our EAC to do?
Well, that's what we would like to, we'd like to figure out how to. I feel like the feasibility study for this trail in Dark Hollow has been done. The public comment is done, 2014. Nobody I talked to knew about it. That was 6 years ago. And now they're spending, I don't know, $400,000 for an engineering study. And one of my friends said, why don't we spend that on vaccinations? But, you know, I feel like it's going, there's a reason they just want to get this done and let's get it done now. And I think this ambulance across the bridge and this paving thing may have something to do with, let's get federal money, because it's in the feasibility study, the Dark Hollow section, the little 2-mile section is going to cost some $3 million or something, almost 4, I think. It's
Yeah.
really a lot, because you got 3 bridges and the woods and everything. So I think they want to do ADA trails. They can get federal money. And right now the EPA is, been butchered. So they still say don't pave in a flood zone. And I've read tons of articles from the EPA. So I feel like, an engineer can study it, say, oh, we can build it, and maybe they can get permits because they know the guy, and maybe the PA DEP says, well, yeah, the county wants to do it. It's okay if the county does it. If Mr. Joe Schmo wants to put a shed in his backyard, he's got to get a permit. And, if you pay enough money, maybe you'll get a permit. So, I mean, it's, I'm not saying they're crooked, but, if the county wants to do something, it's probably going to do it. But I feel like we need to have more public comment. We need the public to, and then not just Doylestown Township, but Warwick Township, Buckingham Township, and so I'm coming to you because the Delaware Riverkeeper said, go to your EACs to start.
And here we are, and we're listening. And I'm thinking to myself that we have a voice. There are other interests in the township that also have voices. Have we ever spoken up about the Neshaminy watershed and the trails that are being built, have already been built or will be built? It's probably time that we took a look at this. And I so appreciate your calling our attention to the details, why this is happening. What comes to mind also is the Bucks County Conservation District motto, which is that we all live downstream. And so here we are in the middle of this long trail that's being built. We're affected by what happens upstream, and we are affecting what happens downstream. And the stream itself is clearly not only impaired, but if we look even 5 years down the road, I think we can predict that it's only going to be worse. The erosion, I mean, it doesn't take any genius to know that. So what is it that we can do? EAC, what do you say? Dan, what do you say? Stephanie, what do you say?
Yeah.
First of all, thank you to Marie. She was the one who reached out to me. I was the one who coordinated the meeting between the county and the residents. As the members of the EAC know, the township, along with Doylestown Borough, have an extensive bike hike system. We have trails that run along the Neshaminy Creek. We've had them there. They've been built by grants that we've received, as well as developers who've developed communities. This is county-owned property, as everyone's indicated. And the county, has a website with a portal, if you will. And I would suggest, before taking any action or anything, that the EAC familiarize yourself with what the county has put up on the website, and that information that Marie referred to, and Dan just provided a quick link. Good job. You're so quick. Thank you. As well, because I think there's a lot of information.
Dan, please put that back up.
Jim shared was very informative. But I think, the EAC needs to make sure that they understand and view the whole, have all information.
Sure.
I think that would be really helpful. And then I think, you may want to, and I think Marie and Jim should share what they've shared tonight with the REAC with Evan Stone and Paul Gordon at the Bucks County Planning Commission. I think, they've been sending out a lot of responses. Again, this is county ground, county project. And I think that they've been and I'll go out on a limb here and say that they've been responsive in terms of responding to emails, hosting information on their website, and trying to, make sure that now that they're moving forward with this design engineering plan. There is no funding, as Marie indicated. They don't have funding yet for the trail itself. That will come, they're probably a year or two into still completing the engineering design study. And then they would have to look for funding. So, I don't know what will happen in the future in terms of when they may or may not obtain funding. But I think, they've established this dialogue with the residents. And I think, they're sharing and putting information on their website. I hope that the residents will also reach out and share information that you're learning and have continue to dialogue with the county for the county's project.
Well,
Jeff, do you know who the engineering is? Who's doing the engineering?
It's Baker Engineering. They were the ones who received the RFP from when the
Okay.
county put out an RFP.
and Gilmore's involved. Gilmore,
No, I don't know what Gilmore's doing.
Gilmore
that.
Associates, they're involved somehow.
Okay, I'm
That's
not
okay.
familiar.
Can I ask a question? I'm
Jim,
just curious, did I understand that this trail is supposed to be for commuting? Like
That's-
literally for
Part of
people?
One of
And
the,
Bike and hike.
It's part of the overall trail system that the county's doing. In fact, if you go into the information, I think Marie and Jim will correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure, but in the studies that were done from the Bucks County Planning Commission, I think it was the 1950s that they had something called the Link Park along the Neshaminy. And, over the years, and that's on their portal, it was part of the PowerPoint that they presented to the residents a few weeks ago. So the concept goes back, decades, basically.
There's nobody is going to be, there's nowhere to commute from and to along that trail. It's
It's
well,
more
we're linking it up, but we've got the 202 bypass. Why can't we continue the trail on 202 and go up to 313, and then they could come down and hit a park or something? They want to link all the parks together so that they can, I don't think it's so much about commuting to work. I don't know.
it
But
seems
I
to
wanna
me that there's a master plan here
Well,
for a major trail system for
Well,
bicycling.
There's a
Yeah,
map.
the county has a master plan.
Yeah,
Can I interject about bicycle trails and the master plan and connections? Just real quick, there is a master plan known as the circuit system that is meant to join Philadelphia and the 5 collar counties through various connection trails, such as in the Neshaminy Greenway or the 202 Trail or the Pennypack Trail. And the goal of these isn't necessarily to commute from Doylestown to Philadelphia. I've done that along the canal. That's not something I'm going to do on a regular basis. The idea is to connect different communities and parks. And for instance, for the Neshaminy Greenway to join us with New Britain, maybe all the way to Tyler Park, and maybe even Bristol. But to be able to, people could come to Doylestown, then access the trails we've created here, and leave it up to the municipalities to join these smaller things. So when we're talking about commuting, it's not necessarily commuting for work. Some people can take advantage of that. I used to do that coming from Woodridge up into Doylestown, but that's only like 5 miles.
Okay.
So it's not so much that as to provide a recreation source for people.
and this piece of it appears to be a critical connection to link across 611 all the way over to 263. And I think that what we've just looked at is there's plenty of evidence to suggest that perhaps this needs to be rethought. And who is it that will say that and to whom?
That's
It's a county. problem.
it's a county property and it's a county project.
Right.
And
Right.
that needs to be communicated with the county. But I think that, they're at this point in time, they have the grant, they're doing the design work and the engineering. And I think they'll complete that work.
Can I ask Jim and Marie, Is the issue here, I mean, I take it that the issue is impervious surface. If there was a trail here that was a boardwalk or something that involved no impervious surface, would that be acceptable to you?
Yeah, I mean, I showed the boardwalk picture.
Yeah, I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it doesn't have to be 10 feet wide and the bridges don't have to be that big. And I'm worried about the bridges
Yeah,
because they are obstructions.
Right.
And you
But
still
there
have
might
to
be there might be a middle ground here where we can have it, we can have some kind of a trail, but that involves little or no impervious surface.
Sure. I don't know if you're familiar with the Wissahickon Trail, but it's basically a gravel trail that they've built through the trees rather than paving a big section through it.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful trail to walk through and you can ride bikes on it.
Yeah. I'm sorry, one other question. Is the Dark Hollow area you mentioned, is that in Buckingham Township or is that in Doylestown?
There's three parts to it. There's Doylestown, there's Buckingham, and then there's Warwick, because they kind of all hit the boundaries of it.
Okay, I'm just curious, because Buckingham has an EAC too, and they seem to be even more impacted than Doylestown, so you would think they would be equally motivated to do something about this. So I'm just curious if you've spoken to them yet.
I have not yet, but that's on my agenda.
Okay.
And all of the land, whether it's in Doylestown Township or Warwick or Buckingham, is county owned.
Right, yeah.
So
Correct.
that we have to remember that.
Right.
And it seems to me that with respectful presentation to many groups and with the support of many groups, environmentally conscious people like our EAC, perhaps the voice gets a little louder. And I do think that there is a middle ground. I think what Jim is talking about, the Wissahickon Trail that you're talking about, Jim, there must be some room, and there are still a few years before this is implemented. We, I think, need to have a louder and more organized voice to suggest changes to the existing plan. That's what I'm hearing. And so if you take Marie and Jim and you say, okay, we're going to present this over and over again. You've got it now. You did it with us. You have your presentation. You can take it to the others, I don't think Warwick has an EAC, but they might have some other group that would be willing to hear you out. We're all Zooming. This is how it works. Let's use the time. Let's use the time to try to get a larger presence and a larger voice. I think, so, Heidi, you had your hand up. I'll shut up.
I did. I just want to first say thank you to Jim and Marie for the outstanding presentation that you gave tonight. It's really, really appreciate all the work that you've done. It's very inspiring. I'm on board with what you guys are suggesting. I'm very concerned as well about these very sensitive areas. I think as an EAC, perhaps we could write a letter to Evan Stone or someone, the county commissioners, just letting them know that we heard these presentations. We're concerned about the impact that it will have on these areas. And looking for maybe a middle ground, such as a boardwalk. I think we should, make a statement saying that we would support a boardwalk. Maybe we don't make that decision tonight. Maybe we need to talk about this in January as an EAC further. But just a thought to make, a statement of some sort. And
That's
also,
well said, Heidi. Yeah, I agree with that too.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the clock and just noticing that we have 14 more agenda items and it's almost 8:30.
Yeah,
So
we're not gonna get through everything tonight.
We have to speak. We have to
Janine,
speak.
Rachel Nielsen raised her hand, which you just take yourself off mute and shout it out, Rachel.
I'm sorry. I just and I'm just one of the residents, on the road, and so I've been talking to Marie about all this. And I guess I just wanted to just chime in and say, we're that I support everything that she's saying, but also that when we did bring up to, because I wrote a specific email about other alternatives, about having gravel, about having some sort of other trail, and they kind of wrote back and said, well, you do know that gravel is an impervious, impervious substance, whatever.
It's considered an impervious surface for design purposes, but it's obviously has more infiltration than asphalt
But it
does.
felt very much like, yes, but we're not considering that. So I guess just to kind of put that out there, that we have kind of said that, but maybe I agree that more voices saying, what about these other alternatives would be very helpful, because coming from a few residents on the road, they can just very quickly kind of shoot us down, so anyway. Thank
can
you.
you, as residents, continue the conversation and perhaps begin drafting some kind of statement that we can then look at in January? Would that be helpful?
A statement
Yeah.
to you.
A statement, something that we could evaluate in January and say, yes, we're behind that, and add our voices to whatever other voices you can accumulate to perhaps come up with alternative ideas.
Right.
We do have to move along. We are already, I
Yeah,
can't believe
we
what
took
time it
too
is.
much time, yeah.
Yeah, we are absolutely going to have to move along. So
Yeah.
I'm going to just ask you then as residents, if you want to hang out for the rest of our meeting, you're welcome to do so. But we're going to ask you then to come back to us in January with something.
Okay.
And in the meantime, please keep saying it, keep doing your presentation, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So
Thank
important.
you very much for
Very,
having
very,
us.
it was very interesting, very interesting.
So
It
important.
was very.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I'm going to continue moving along now. We're going to try to go fast so we can maybe get an awful lot done in 30 minutes. Okay, I wanted to say that Jim's article in the newsletter about deer was so well done. I know that it hit at least somebody's nerve. I told Jim I was on the phone for almost an hour with a resident who was very concerned about what we were saying. Her issue was that she doesn't think deer are overpopulated. She thinks we are overdeveloped. And you know, it is true that we are overdeveloped, but we are also overpopulated. I think, and Jim's article said that, and I stand by it. But it was good. Salisbury Township EAC is continuing to investigate deer and deer management. Perhaps sometime in 2021 there will be some kind of EAC summit hosted by probably Salisbury EAC to discuss deer. Just a footnote. Stop me, I'm going to try to go fast. All right. Instead of the strategic plan review tonight, we're going to take a look at the development that is proposed on Meeting House Road. I don't know if anybody else had a chance to drive over there. It's a nice big flat area. And if you look at the design plan, and I think you all received it, we were asked to look at it and just look at a 3-acre piece of that plan and maybe make a suggestion, or what say you?
Janine, I have a question about it. What is on that open space now? Is it completely empty, or are there trees? What
It
is?
looks to me like it's a very large empty spot. I don't know though, for sure.
It's been farmed. It's a little over 10 acres. There's a house, there's some trees, and the other part is just really big and open. I think it's been like hay or something.
Mhm.
And the developer's proposing a 10-lot subdivision with using the lot averaging because they have public water, public sewer available to them. So they can reduce the lot size and include open space, which they're proposing for their HOA to take care of. The park board looked at it and they're like, it's really not big enough to make a park because there wouldn't really be room for a parking lot where people in the neighborhood could come to or whatever. They will be addressing the trail system that's out there already and connecting, so the neighborhoods will get more connected through the trail system on Meeting House. But the Planning Commission Chair, Judy Hendrickson, suggested the EAC look at it. You know, we have a lot of HOAs with open space that they maintain. You know, they're responsible for it and everything. But if there's anything, you know, I know you guys are big into meadows and woodlands and things like that. So they're looking for any suggestions you may have. Right now, the developer is moving from the sketch plan stage. They've had a couple of meetings with the Planning Commission, and they are moving to the official subdivision, engineered subdivision plans, which we'll probably see sometime in the new year. And the developer has purchased the property. You know, the people that live there have passed away, and the children, multiple children, adults, obviously, who own the property want to sell it and settle the estate. So they've sold the property to the developer, and he is now the owner of the property.
Stephanie, has this developer worked in our township before?
No, he is not.
Is he aware that we encourage native plants?
It's part of the township ordinances, subdivision land development, so he will
Uh-huh.
be. And that'll be obviously when the official plans are submitted, reviewed by the township's planning consultant at the time. And that will be obviously reviewed.
Okay, I incidentally, I've lost it all visual, so I'm flying blind here. But
Look at the bottom for your Zoom.
yeah, I
link.
don't have, yeah, it's telling me that I have to uninstall Adobe Flash Player or something, and I
Uh-oh.
don't want to waste time dealing with it. I'll just fly blind. But I think that we would all agree that native plants on that 3-acre open space area would be really important. And perhaps we could request some kind of sketch at some point down the road. Is that possible?
Of the open space with plants in it, so that he
Yeah.
will leave. So the responsibility will be that he'll put the plants in. You're suggesting he puts the plants in and leaves it for their HOA to take care of them.
I guess, yeah, yeah, the HOA would be, you know,
Okay, that's fine.
In the past, we've normally seen a planting list when it gets closer, I guess, to the.
Yeah.
There were no
So-
plants.
Sketch plan. This is a sketch plan.
Right, I understand, but at
This
some point,
This
are
is
they
like
required?
take the back of a piece of paper and draw.
Right, right.
Right, but are they required to provide a planting list at some point or no?
Yes, when they officially submit an engineered subdivision plan, but they're not there yet.
Right, okay.
okay.
I'd
We're
like to,
really at the starting line here, guys.
Right.
I would like to interject just quickly that it'd be nice if we could have a wooded area as well as a meadow, a non-mow meadow area, or an area that's mowed only once a year for meadow, just for good habitat for animals and wildlife. So that's my recommendation. It's half meadow, half woods.
So we could pass that on to the developer tonight, Stephanie, that idea.
Yeah, I'll share that
Okay.
with the developer.
Okay, and we'll see more of this later then.
Yep.
Okay, okay. Let's move into our subcommittee reports. And I'm wearing my shirt tonight. I don't know if you noticed it. I think it's great.
I
Thank you.
did. It looks great. Yes.
Great job.
Thank you.
Let's
Bye.
hear about, does anybody else want to say anything about the shirts?
They're wonderful. Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
Yeah, they're so good. I can't wait till we're
Thank
all
you.
together live with our shirts on.
Yeah.
Ready for 100. Heidi, Kurt, Jim, Tanya. What's
Yeah, I got the materials. Thank you, Stephanie.
Oh, good.
It's about 700 pages.
Oh, God.
So it's going to take me a little while to process it, but
Oh, come on.
no.
Really?
So
I warned you, Kurt.
No, that's great. It's a really good submission, and I'll just start crunching it away, and we'll have it when we have it.
Great.
That's
Thank
good.
you. Wow,
That's good.
thanks, Kurt, for taking that task on. Wow. You know, it's like each of us has our own skill sets, and that's, you know, I'm so glad you're here to do that.
Yeah. Can I just also say that Jim Miller passed along to me the mechanism for getting grants for charging stations. And I don't want to get into that right now, but I think at the next meeting, I'd like to talk to Stephanie and Dave about if there was a reason to put a charging station in or near the township building. And if we could do that for a reasonable or nominal cost, I would be willing to pursue getting a grant for that. I don't want to presume that that's going to be a useful thing to do, but at the next meeting, I'd like to raise that as an issue.
Well, why don't we talk offline? That would probably with Dave. I don't know if Dave, are you still there?
I am still here. Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
I think it would be better, Jim, if you gave us a call at the office and we have a conversation about that. And then that way you come with better information to the meeting.
Very good.
Possibly Rick Shea too, because he had a lot of thoughts on where to put charging stations in and where the building's wired for it and where it's not.
Okay, great.
I just like to make one point regarding charging stations. Is that we have limited parking, so we have to be thoughtful as to where we put it. And I think we did when we designed the building, we actually included something for a future charging station in the rear of the building for any future possibly township vehicles that would be electric that we could install as well. So just want to make that certainly willing to talk offline and entertain any ideas moving forward. That'd be fine.
All right. So who Stephen, should I set up a time with you first?
Yeah, go through me and then I'll coordinate with Dave and Rick.
Okay, very good.
Okay, Jim, please let me know whether we need to put that on the January agenda
Okay.
after you've had your conversations.
Okay.
The tree signs for Central Park are now on hold. We thought we
one,
were
baby.
finished with the work. Anne or Tanya, would one of you talk about that?
I can talk about that, but you skipped over Heidi's invasive plant of the month.
I'm sorry, Heidi, I'm sorry. It's so beautiful. And let's back up. Item C.
No, there's not much to say, but I sent it to you guys already tonight. Earlier, I managed to get it together, figured out the software, and I'm back online with doing invasive plants of the month. So I sent it to Stephanie, so she can upload it, and I'll work on the next one for January, which is supposed to be privet. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you,
Mhm.
Heidi, for
Did a great job.
taking that on. It's really beautiful.
Thank you.
English ivy this month. It's really
Yeah.
beautiful. Okay, tree signs. We're moving fast here.
Tree signs, well, we have a little hiccup. We thought we had driven a stake through the heart of the thing, that it was dead, but the hand raised up out of the grave and said, no, you're not done yet.
Well, that's
Because all our pictures were
Visual.
not high enough resolution. They will not print properly. So we're back to, now we're not totally back to square one, because we certainly have our text, our headers, the organization of the sign, the way the messages, the messaging of the sign, all that's still good. It's just none of the pictures are. So we're going to start over on that. And I think we need to know from you, Steph, if we're going to get a new Andrea, so to speak.
Yes, you will be getting a new Andrea. I will be getting a new Andrea, except it will be an Aaron.
Okay.
With an AARON, gentleman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And he'll be starting on the 21st. So you will see him in January.
Great. Well, we will need his services to help us coordinate the picture input for the signs. But all is not lost. We're all going to live happily ever after. We're just not going to get it done this year.
Yep, that's the bottom line.
Is it a matter of the resolution of the original images or just getting the original images in? Because I'm a Photoshop person. If I can be helpful, I'd be glad to.
No, where they got them from were
not high enough resolution.
Yeah, not high enough resolution to start with. So yeah, it was not.
And then we're blowing
we were
up,
we were going with the free, photos kind of thing.
Okay. Just thought I'd offer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
but
you.
Yeah, we're working with our consultant now we'll fix it, guys. Don't worry.
Thank you. Thank you,
And
Karen.
the other thing is that our new person is a photographer. So
how wonderful.
Nice. Oh yeah, very Renaissance person.
Excellent.
Very excited.
Okay, excellent.
Good hire. Thank you.
Okay, we'll get them done. Native plant demonstration garden is tucked in for the winter. And next week, it looks like maybe next Thursday, Karen Sweeney, Chris Mason, and I are going to go take a look at the potential expansion of the native plant demonstration garden, so that we will then move slowly into that whole triangle area surrounded by trails. So next week, we'll meet and take a look and say yay or nay to the expansion. Birdtown, Mid-Atlantic Audubon, Heidi.
So a couple things. We're going to be moving forward with the Christmas bird count, which is on December 27th. Janine and Hal are going to be a team. John and I will be a team, and it might be that's it because of the pandemic. And I'll be in touch with Janine with more details as well as Hal. As far as Birdtown, with John and I have been working on bluebird boxes. Again, because of the pandemic, I didn't involve the whole team. But we replaced 6 boxes. There's been a total of 9 that have been replaced for the year. I'd like to expand to 50 boxes total by next year because a lot of boxes have just been getting old, and also just reevaluate the sites if they're the best sites for the bluebirds. That will be, come with our looking at the bluebird boxes in February, but we can talk more about that in January. But everything's moving nicely forward with Birdtown.
And it's so organized. The bluebird boxes are identified, they're tended, we know where they are. It's just great. Thank you, Heidi and John, for taking that on.
Thank you. Yeah, Ray would be happy because he started all that, so he would be really happy. Thank you.
Sure, and also just a big thank you to Drew from the county who helped put the maps together. I sent you guys those maps, so these wonderful maps to work from now, which will be really helpful when we do the Nest Watch program in the spring.
Yeah, and it's also looking to the future, so we don't have to guess again where these boxes are. So it's all good. It's all good. Thank you to everybody who's doing so much. Invasive plant workshops, we'll talk about that again later. We don't have to look at that tonight if you don't mind. Can I table that? We're so late.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we can table that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in January. Okay, Park Partners meeting. I spoke to Kathy Brown, the chair of Parks and Rec, on the phone. I guess that was this morning. Yeah, it was this morning. And we're going to be setting up a meeting with Dave Tomko and Chris Mason to talk about some preliminary ideas on having a team of volunteers called Park Partners to assist with the maintenance of our parks. We're just in the beginning stages of this, but getting Dave and Chris and Kathy and me together in the next week or two, we'll get some more solid ideas. And I guess we'll also hear what they have to say about making a decision whether we go ahead with this plan or not. Kathy and I were enthusiastically sharing ideas this morning, and I know that that's how our meeting is going to go. We'll share our ideas and we'll see what happens. But I'm optimistic that maybe we'll start small, and maybe we will have a group of volunteers who can help with a lot of different aspects of our parks. So more on that later. The Sheridan Road lot and township-owned properties in need of cleanup. I told you what I thought. Does anybody want to add to that? Carrie, you're here. Are you still here?
She's here.
Yeah, Chair Raymond's still on the Zoom call.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, I can't see anybody because I'm looking at a Zoom screen. But it seems to me that we ought to hang on to those properties, that one and any others, that we can eventually turn into these, whatever you want to call them, you know, mini forest was one idea, green corridors, forest pathways. Why would we get rid of land when we could hold on to it? Does anybody else have a thought about that?
Janine, your presentation that you guys shared at your last meeting has been shared with the Board of Supervisors, just so you know.
Oh.
Thank you, Heidi.
Sure.
We did share that. The board has taken it, all of your recommendations under advisement at the present time. Dan, would you like to add anything else, or?
Yeah, one of the things we discussed was what to do with these properties going forward, specifically the one by Kara's home. And there seems to be a slight confusion about what exactly the EAC recommends as far as selling it, keeping it to maintain it. And I know Jen had asked for more clarity on where you guys come from, and to maybe make like a formal recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, what your recommendation is.
Is this the evening to do that, Dan?
Probably not, given time constraints. I'll leave that to you guys to decide. But I will say we discussed it. We're discussing options on what to do with it. And if you have like a formal input you'd like us to consider outside the report, that would be appreciated.
What do you say,
And
guys?
could I add? Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to share one thing. You know, this lot happens to be next to my house. I didn't come to the EAC to have the township do, you know, a complete makeover. I just actually came to find out if they would consider planting some trees to replace the trees that died. And just so everybody understands, this piece of land is less than 1/4 of an acre in size.
Right.
I'm on just shy of 1/3 of an acre, and it is less than half the size of my property. So it's pretty tiny. And as Heidi did say, because she and I had a nice chat when she was here, it just has never been tended at all. And it has just become grossly overgrown. And the thought of it getting sold, I don't know what they could possibly put there, or who's going to buy something that's less than 1/4 of an acre. You certainly can't put a house on it.
With proper zoning relief, they could, because those lots were originally movie lots, and they were all 100 by 20. And those are legal lots that were recorded at the Bucks County Courthouse in like the 1900s.
So they could put a house on a piece of property that's less than 1/4 of an acre?
Yes, they could. If they would probably need zoning relief, but other lots in there have gone to the zoning hearing board and gotten the relief they needed to put homes in there because there's public sewer in there now.
I would like to protect that lot from any sale now and into the future.
But I mean, maybe one of the other property owners in the neighborhood that are
That's
might want to
yeah.
purchase too. So
That's
I mean,
something.
it's township owned. So I'm going to take a little step here, Dan, if you're okay, and say that at the end of the day, it will be the Board of Supervisors' decisions on what to do with lots they own.
Right.
I just
And
wanted
with all due respect to everybody.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make clear that I didn't come advocating for anything in particular to happen to this piece of property because it happens to be next to me. I just thought there might be some avenue to replant some trees there to help with the water issues around here. Because since those trees have gone, water on my property and the property on the other side has just increased when it rains. And I know there's more rain. I'm just saying that was the whole idea. It wasn't to, but if it becomes something more community centric, great. But if it doesn't, so be it.
Yeah, and I think the discussion we're having, or we had with the Board of Supervisors is what do we do as far as maintaining not just this property, but other properties like this. And, if we were to sell it, it doesn't necessarily mean we sell it to anyone to go put a house there. My personal preference would be to offer it to one of the neighbors so that they could continue to maintain it as part of their property. So those kinds of decisions to make. Okay.
So would they actually talk to the 3 people who are adjacent to that property before they would decide to do anything?
I'm not sure legally exactly. Legally, we are allowed to put it up for auction to just.
We would have to auction. Dan, if you don't mind me stepping in here.
Yeah, go ahead.
To clarify, is that the township could certainly reach out and let you know that we're putting it up for auction, as well as you and your other neighbors that are there. But we would have to, at the end of the day, it would have to be a public auction or bid situation where we would accept bids on the property through a public process. But, letting you know ahead of time that on such and such a date, we'd be accepting those proposals, we could do that. I think that's right, Dan.
I believe so. And speaking with our solicitor as well, we are allowed to put stipulations on that property as well. Like if we were to sell it off, we could say, yeah, you can buy this, but you can't put a house on here, but maybe you could put a shed or, whatever we decide we wanted to add to that. That's something we would be able to do.
So Dan, is your sense that that the little lots like this one that are currently owned by the township are that maybe there is no will to just kind of protect them as land, as to create what I was describing as forest pathways? I mean, we are an environmental advisory council, and that I think it's a different approach from selling it and putting an easement on or whatever you would do, or offering it to neighbors. I don't know if anybody else is interested in that idea, or maybe it's just me.
I will say, I believe, and I don't want to speak for all the supervisors, but I think 4 of the 5 supervisors heard about this for the first time at our last meeting. So, and it was kind of brought up like, what do we do with this? Do we just sell it, kind of thing? So there's definitely that's why one of the reasons I'm asking for like a proper recommendation from the EAC, because it was just kind of like, hey, these exist. Why we're not doing anything with them? Why do we have them? Maybe we should sell them. So, and it was I did mention what the EAC has discussed as far as possible alternatives. But I know Supervisor Herring mentioned one of her concerns was if we keep these, we need to do some kind of at least basic maintenance on them to be good neighbors and not leave
Can I interject, Dan, and this is Dave. Can I interject here just for a second?
Sure.
Steph, I think it would be important since just to know how many lots we're talking about and really what we define as lots we own, especially in the Wilkshire tract, which is where we're talking about here off of Sheridan and the other lots, as well as other open space, parklands that we have, trails, easements, things like that. And it might be a positive thing, since we did prepare something for the board to share this with the EAC. We're not talking about a lot. We're, you know, in the Wilkshire tract, we're talking about 8 parcels. Of the 8, the one we're talking about on Sheridan, next to Ms. Raymond's lot, and then one lot in that area is a basin, current basin, that is actually across the street from Ms. Raymond's lot, one lot in on the other sides of Sheridan. So we really have 6, besides this lot, we're talking about 6 wooded lots that were never, only one lot is accessible by a street. Other ones are paper streets that were never opened. And
Right.
so people, it's developed around, there's one house that's developed, lots that's developed that surrounds them. So we're not talking about a lot. And again, regarding maintenance, you know, they're fairly wooded, and the lot we're talking about is the one we've discovered that really has some trash on it from wherever reason that came from. Maybe the previous owners dumped something there. Maybe it was illegal dumping. We don't know. But the idea that, you know, the idea we have 400 active and passive acres and 3 guys in parks, you know, this is a big effort. So I want to temper expectations here to say we do the best we can with our lots. If things are brought to our attention, we address them. Ms. Raymond had brought concerns to us about the trees, and we did take trees down as part of our tree program, hazardous trees, because they were dying. And so I just want to make sure we're all clear as to, we are active in what we do, and if there's concerns and there's recommendations, we're willing to, as a public works department, to address those concerns. But I think it's important for you to know what those lots are, where they are, and in general, all the open space within the township, whether it's a basin, a park, a lot that we acquired somehow through in this neighborhood. So just want to interject that. So if anybody has questions, certainly we're willing to you know, address anybody's questions, concerns, or comments as we move forward here.
Dave, I have a quick question. Is there like a strategic plan of how to deal with the open spaces in the township? Is there like some kind of guidances in general, like dumping and maintenance and culverts and so forth that are in those properties?
No, a written document, no, we don't have a written document, a strategic plan on that. I gotta say, it's we're a little reactive because of the size of the Parks Department and what we have to do, not only thinking about what the Park Department's responsible for. So it's more reactive. Right now, the only thing we're doing regarding our open space is there's removal of hazardous trees, specifically through areas where we have bike hike trails, or there's, you know, a hazardous tree on an open space that's adjacent to a property that we take down. So it's a little reactive, and no, we really don't have a plan. Certainly guidance, you know, would be helpful, because I think that's important, because look, you know, as staff members, you know, we're not gonna be here forever. So, and we appreciate that as we develop these things and as we move forward, that would be helpful for us to have that document, and whether it's you do it and provide it to us, or we do it jointly, or that would be great.
Yeah, I think a plan, like a 10-year, 20-year plan would be a good idea, you know, just something that's slow, you know, based on how much money and how much, you know, goodwill and how much energy there is in the staff time to take care of these different properties. But I agree with Jane. I think it's really important to maintain these open spaces, provide green corridors. You know, we just had this presentation with Marie about, you know, more and more of our environment being destroyed. We really need to maintain habitat in our community as much as we can, and these spaces provide that. So
right. Well, so I would also want to interject that, you know, we got a lot of hazardous trees to take down, and there's a lot of open space that we should be talking about how we should reforest those possibly, and having a forestry plan for those spaces. We lost a lot. You know, you go behind Doylestown Lee, which is off of Wells Road and Radcliffe and back there, which is basically the neighborhood between, you know, Wells Road and then Chamonix. Which is bordered by the Parkway and by, you know, out to really kind of Turk Road, I guess. And those trails through there, we've taken a lot of trees down. And you walk through, Steph and I were out there this week walking through, talking about drainage issues, and, you know, just a lot of trees down and a lot of open space. We could think about reforesting. How do we do it? How do we, you know, where do we get the resources to do it? I just don't want to take trees down, because but I know we have to take them down because they're hazardous, because they're dead. We don't take trees down because we want to take trees down. Let's make that point clear. But I
Clear.
also want to make sure we have a plan, and with your help, to restore those woodlands. Janine, I hear you all the time talking about continuous woodlands, and I think it's important. So I'm willing to address any issues that come up, any recommendations within our resources, within staff power, or even contracted services or volunteers. But I think having a plan moving forward. So I think knowing the open space across the municipality and the effort that we're doing to take down hazardous trees within public rights of way on the roads and open space, it's a big effort. We spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
So
We do.
just want to let
And
everybody know.
so, Dave, if I can just build on it, and Ann
Yeah.
and Janine are aware of this, is the Park Recreation Open Space Comprehensive Plan that, Ann served on that subcommittee, that's been completed and is going to be presented soon to the Board of Supervisors. That plan, the park board went out to all the parks, and they've created a list of, things that they have on as sort of a list of items, that they want to see improvements made, over a period of time, as part of the parks. But, woodlands and things like that, I don't believe they really address that, except for the open spaces that we have. And I mean, Ann knows from the maps that are in that book, the extensive amount, we have like 740 acres of open space. 400 of it is active parkland that we maintain. The rest are passive open spaces and some easements and conservation easements of land that we've preserved throughout the community.
Right.
And Josh Feldstein, may rest in peace, used to say, we have something the size of Central Park in New York City. That's what we've preserved in our community.
That's great.
I think then, can we, Dave, can we help then? Can you give us direction on going forward to discuss the open space areas and begin perhaps making a long range plan?
Yeah, sure. And I think that should be a goal, because like I said, honestly, we do as much as we can, but a lot of it's through you. A lot of it's through the Arbor Day stuff. Where can we plant
Right.
trees? Where can we do things like that?
Mhm.
And I think as a public works department, and really the subset of that is the Parks Department, the guys, again, we're just reactive to things. We either take stuff down on so yeah, to have a plan and then to figure out how we're going to roll that out in, 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Right.
Yeah. And I think, however that is going to occur, I think, yes, I support that, because honestly, I think, we just, we don't have the time, or even maybe the knowledge. I mean, Chris does. Chris is wonderful. Chris knows his stuff.
Yes.
And he's
Yes, he
really,
does.
and he'll take you out, and he'll take his time and things like that. So we can certainly, but Chris is just, has a lot of hats he's wearing and things to do. So certainly, yeah, we'd appreciate it.
Dave,
That'd be
maybe
great.
this is an opportunity for us when we meet, when Chris and you and Kathy and I meet next week. I hope it's next week, or the first week in January. I'm sorry. I think that's what we were hoping for. Maybe in our discussion about park partners, we can also incorporate into that some discussion of a long-range plan for these open space plots.
Yeah, and I'd like to include Aaron, obviously our new special projects coordinator, Aaron, in that, and that would be, fine as well. And yes, that would be, and how we kind of wrap ourselves around this and make this, and somehow maybe it's include, I don't know if I guess it's not really going to be, could be part of the comp plan, because I know that that's getting finalized, and obviously want to do that, but maybe it's a little bit of a standalone document that we could. Now we're trying to develop a park maintenance plan, so that could be part of that. Well, that could be part of that document. And we started that. That is the park maintenance plan is going to be. I like these to be dynamic. Like a strategic plan is a dynamic document that is always being constantly reviewed, updated. And to see have you met the short-term, long-term goals. And the maintenance plan is something that I like to see as dynamic, and And the fact that obviously we're going to do certain projects and they're going to come off the list, and there's going to be these long-term, I call them the housekeeping stuff, right? The stuff you have to do every day, every week, every month, every year. And then it's like, oh, well, we want to do a planting here. We want to reforest this. And how do we do that? So I think there could be multi-folds of ideas and plans here and working through to do that. Yeah.
So could we consider that then the parks and open space maintenance plan?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes. It's really, I mean, really, when we talk about parks, it really is
It's
all
everything.
inclusive. It's
Okay.
everything that,
Okay,
besides
You-
public rights of way, it is really open space parks. It's everything that's,
okay.
yeah.
So do you think that maybe by the first week of January, we could have maybe an inventory of these plots, these little places that we could possibly?
We already have
We already
one.
have an open space
Yeah.
map that we
I know,
provided.
we've looked at the map, and we found it not to be very helpful. I was thinking maybe a list.
There's a list, I think, also in that document, in the parks
Yeah.
document, pros document.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Can we have that? Can we work with that then at some point in January?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're making some progress here. That's exciting. Thanks, Dave. I think it's going to be
Sure.
fun
Yep.
and
Mhm.
very worthwhile. Yep. And
I
Heidi,
agree. And I think that should be our focus, because again, it pains me to take so many trees down every year, but I'd rather take down a hazardous tree than have it go down on somebody and then we have to deal
Sure.
with that. And it's really risk management for us. That's really what it comes down to.
Hmm,
We have to do this. And unfortunately, I always say, the trees don't live forever. They have a life cycle too. So
Mhm.
we have to make sure, but we also need to be sure that we're replenishing them as best as we can.
right.
And doing that. So,
Yep.
And of course, we will incorporate into that our Arbor Day requirements. So it's a natural. It's really.
yeah,
a
and this also goes to obviously our Tree City USA, our
Yep.
reporting every year and doing that. So yes, that would be, something that
Mhm.
would also, I feel like I report that we take more down than we replenish, honestly. And, but that's just a matter of fact. It's part of the plan and what we do. So
Hey,
we're
Ash,
improving.
that's
We're going to get on this and we're going to make a difference. I'm excited. Thank you.
And honestly, I think we've probably got one more year of chasing ash. Probably 21 is be the last year that we actually, doing a bulk of, cutting down because of the emerald ash borer. Maybe chasing a few here and there, but 21 might be where we get to the end of it, hopefully.
Wow.
So-
Okay. That'll be a relief.
Can I just jump in real quick for a minute?
Yeah.
Sure.
I just want to circle back then to Dan about the Sheridan Road.
Heidi, can you speak up, please?
I would just like to circle back to the Sheridan Road plot then. Dan, to the supervisors, do you want something formal? But I think, really just put this on hold so that we can make a larger long-term.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Heidi. I was gonna ask for clarification. It sounds like the recommendation is just kind of hold for now till we have a larger plan. That there's no need to sell this right now, and we
Okay.
can take our time. And I think the supervisors understand that there's no urgent need to sell off this property or anything like that.
Yeah, good.
And can they be patient and let us do a little work on a park maintenance plan that might
I
include?
hope so. I'll try.
Would you please encourage that patience?
We'll talk to them.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, guys. The next item on the agenda is mini forest pathways idea. I think we've just been talking about that. And we're going to be moving ahead and thinking about it and perhaps saving small township-owned plots. That's going to be a potential goal. It's not formalized yet, but we'll get back to it. One last item, Dawn Richardson's memorial bench. Every month I email his partner, Bert DeVries, and she said that no later than December 14th, the township would get her check for the bench by the native plant garden. So I hope that she's able to actually do that, but that's my update for that. Is there anything else that anyone needs to report or ask?
I don't want to hold us too long, but I do want to make the offer about what we discussed earlier tonight with those bike trails for the Neshaminy Greenway by Pebble Ridge. Oh, not Pebble Ridge, sorry, Pebble Woods. I happen to live right by those trails here on Duane Road, and probably about a third to a half of that trail already has walking paths through the Dark Hollow property there. So I would like to extend the invitation if anyone on the EAC would like, please feel free to come over to my house. Me and my son will happily take you back in the woods back there and show you what's already back there.
I'm in. I'm in.
Me too.
Yeah, there's already an extensive trail network back there that is a combination of things Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority have done and local residents have kind of created themselves back there. So I'm happy to show you that. I'm happy to show you where it gets real swampy and where erosion's a problem and where we could look to engineer some kind of solutions, whether that's planning or proper drainage for those areas as well. So whatever date works for you guys, I prefer the weekends just because I work till 5 and then it gets dark and it's no good to go back there then. But looks like this Saturday shouldn't be too bad, just cloudy. Let me know what people are interested in. I'd be happy to give you a tour back there.
Yeah, I definitely want to do that. We're maybe we should, I don't know when we should do it, Dan, but I guess those of us who are interested will just email you and we'll try to come up with a date and a time.
Yeah, we go back there and I mean, all the neighbors around here go back there and check it out. And so, yeah, I'm happy to show you around.
Okay.
And it goes all the way to about Wilkshire Road before you can't really go much further with
All right,
what's back there now.
That's going to be really interesting. I can't wait to do it. Is anybody else interested?
Yes, I am.
I'm interested.
I'd like to
Okay, Tanya, Heidi, me. Okay, let's do it. If not this Saturday, maybe, who knows? We'll figure it out by
Whenever
email.
the weather works out and people
Yeah.
feel like going for a walk.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's supposed to rain this Saturday, actually.
it is,
Yeah,
but maybe it won't.
maybe it won't. Okay. Well, guys, wow, this was a marathon. Let's wrap it up. How about a motion to adjourn?
I think Heidi had one more thing.
Oh, I'm sorry, Heidi, I can't see, so I'm sorry.
Dan, I just want to follow up with you about the water basins. Was there any interest further about?
I am chasing Cynthia down about that, but yes, that is something I am going to be working on more.
Great, thanks.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, keep us posted. Okay, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye, 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 aye. Okay, thanks, everyone. You've been great.
Jinx,
Okay,
roll me a Coke.
thanks,
All right, take
everyone.
care.